So a couple of weeks back in a blind comparison, I put two shotgun microphones head-to-head, the legendary Sennheiser MKH-416 and the newcomer, the SE Electronics 6160. And quite a few of you picked the purple mic, thinking it was the 416. To which I have to say, congratulations, purple mic, you just catfished half my audience. So let's recap what we learned, shall we?
From the mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemcoff.
All right, welcome back. So I asked you to listen, compare, maybe even argue with yourself over which one of these mics sounded better. And today I'm bringing them out of the booth to present them here in a lesser treated space, so you can hear what they sound more like in a room. So since doing the test, I've given the whole thing a couple of weeks to marinate in its own juices. And today I wanted to finally present you with my recap, the reveal of my thoughts now that I've lived with both mics a little bit longer and dug into the analysis. So think of this as the mop-up, the great truth-telling, and the ultimate under-the-radar microscopic view of how the new kid on the block compares to an industry standard. Now let's start with the obvious biggest difference between these two mics. The 416 has more harmonic coloration, technically a higher THD or total harmonic distortion than the 6160. But, not so much that dirties the sound, but just enough to add a little seasoning. It's really part of what gives the 416 that recognizable edge, and we're not talking a ton more. The 6160 is definitely a bit cleaner and more neutral, but not by a whole lot. Now, the 6160 also seems to be a little bit brighter. And to my ear, that's what I hear. And I suspect it has a higher spectral centroid. Now, what that means is the spectral centroid is basically the center of mass of a sound spectrum. So imagine you've got all the frequencies that your voice produces laid out on a balance beam, which, by the way, is the kind of balance beam that only audio nerds like us could fall off of. And think of the spectral centroid as the point where that beam balances. Now, if the centroid is lower, the sound is perceived as darker or warmer because more energy is concentrated in the lower frequencies. And if the centroid is higher, the sound is perceived as brighter or even sharper because obviously more energy is in the higher frequencies. So when I say that the 6160 has a higher spectral centroid than the 416, what that really means is that it tilts a little brighter overall, while the 416 leans a little bit darker and more mid-focused. And also, because the 6160 seems to have a lower THD than the 416, it's a cleaner, more transparent capture. It has that step out of the way and let your voice shine kind of sound, which is really great, right? So another difference between these two is the low end of both mics. Now, the 416, it's actually a little bit more conservative because it rolls off sharply around 40 hertz, so it doesn't let a ton of sub-bass energy through. But here's the kicker. The 6160 reaches all the way down to 20 hertz, and that means it captures more of the deep bass. So in practice, the 6160 gives you a fuller, richer low end compared to the 416, and that extra weight can add body and warmth to your voice, especially in a treated environment. And what's funny though? A lot of you heard that difference too. And in the blind test, plenty of listeners picked the purple mic, the 6160, thinking it was the 416. And when I revealed that it wasn't, that surprised a lot of people. And what many thought was the expensive mic sound was actually the 6160's extended low end. And the other thing a number of you picked up upon is that the 416 sounds a little bit more focused in on the sound, right? So the vertically slotted interference tube on the 416 enables this. The 6160's interference tube design will pick up a little bit more of what's around it, which can help it sound more natural. But with just adding a little touch of ambience. But that more focused 416 sound is part of its iconic sonic signature, so I think it helped some of you pick out the 416 right away. And what's ironic is that the interference tube slot design of the 6160 very closely conjures up images of the vintage Sennheiser ME80, which was a predecessor to the 416, and as such also has an expired patent. So take from that what you will. But in general, both mics have identical sensitivity, identical self-noise, and both have a baked-in high-end EQ lift that suggests the 6160 was designed to walk in the 416's footsteps. And then, of course, there's the price. The 416 is going to run you well over $1,000. The SE Electronics 6160? About half that. So now you're looking at a mic that measures almost the same, fooled a lot of ears, and delivers more low end and also costs 50% less. So here's how I'd sum it up. If you've got the budget and you want the industry standard, the 416 is still a voiceover, it's still a king in VO. Casting directors know it, engineers expect it, and, it delivers that subtle harmonic lift with a tight controlled low end. But if you're building out your studio, or you're looking for maximum value without sacrificing quality, the 6160 makes a seriously strong argument. It gives you a clean, professional capture, a bit more brightness up top and a bigger, deeper low end, all at half the price. And let's be real, all right? Your clients aren't going to say, where's that roll-off at 40 hertz? They're just going to hear you sounding professional. And that's what matters. So that's my recap. Now, I verbalized this before, and at the risk of once again upsetting the delicate feelings of those who get all frowny face when I say the 416 is yesterday's mic in a tomorrow world. Look, I'm not trying to take away anyone's emotional support microphone here, but I prefer and see very positive results from using shotgun mics that are a little bit cleaner sounding. But if you're a 416 user and it's getting you where you want to go and you're booking work with it, then don't change a thing. But if you're not getting where you want to go, it might be time to look inward, right? So allow me a little bit of brutal honesty. And while it is the most important part of your gear chain, it's not just your mic that affects you not booking work. It's not just your voice. It's how you audition. It's how you treat clients. It's how you position yourself in an industry that changes daily. So my book, The Modern Voiceover Career Owner's Manual, which you can see over my shoulder there, it breaks down why you're not landing jobs and exactly how to fix it. So let's get back to the mics. Ultimately, if I were to boil down what I learned in the crucible of comparison here, it's that the SE6160 is proof that you don't need to empty your wallet to sound like you belong in the big leagues. So, I want to know what you think though. And thank you for tuning in. If you missed the original Shootout, check out that episode for the full side-by-side. And you know what? Make sure you subscribe to this channel because you never know when more mic nerdery will be coming your way soon. Alright, let me know what you think of these two. Leave a comment. And until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, fading to black.